Hi everyone. Today let's talk about NVIDIA earnings. Then we'll take a look at the economic data. Then we'll take a look at the charts, as well as my results for the day and my thoughts going into tomorrow's session. If you like trading stocks and options and making money, definitely like and subscribe. I make videos like this every single day that the markets are open, as well as Sundays, so make sure you hit the bell so you don't miss out on any future episodes. Welcome to the Portfolio Bulletin. Let's get started. So NVIDIA crushed it once again, kind of as expected. They crushed it last time. Most people had high hopes, and sure enough, they delivered. Sales up 170% this quarter, absolutely massive, reporting $10.32 billion in data center revenue, which was up 171% year over year, and we are up massive, 6% after hours. Earnings, $2.70 compared with $2.09, so big beat there. Revenue, 13.51 versus 11.22. Again, beating on both the top and bottom line. Great earnings, great forecast. Everything looks massive here for NVIDIA. And this should spell higher prices at a minimum for the NASDAQ, and at least some optimism in big tech in my opinion. They also mentioned that revenue in second quarter doubled from $6.7 billion a year earlier, an increase of 88% from the prior period. Looking at revenue year over year percent change, you can see that massive number here for Q2 2023, massive growth, and this should spell some higher prices for Alphabet, Amazon, and Meta as well. I would expect Microsoft to rally on these numbers, anything to do with AI really. Moving over to the economic calendar, you can see building permits better than expectations by a little bit. All of the economic indicators were weaker than expectations. Global U.S. manufacturing at 47, lower than 50 and lower than expectations, not great. New home sales beat by a little bit, that was good. Percentage beat by a lot here. Expectation was 0.2 versus 4.4 at what we got. 20-year auction at almost 4.5%, pretty high there. Definitely interesting to see that continuing to go higher. For tomorrow, we got Jackson Hole Symposium. Jay Powell is not expected to speak until Friday, but this could have some indicators for markets. Core durable goods at 8:30, as well as initial jobless claims, still sitting at 240 for expectations. Fed balance sheet, expecting about another $40 to $60 billion to roll off tomorrow. Moving over to Max Payne, you can see quite a few options came off the board, back down to 876,000. Max Payne still sitting at 441. We're a little bit higher than that now, especially with the move after hours. Put call ratio still quite high. We expected a rally into this zone, so that's still on track. Still very few calls, still a lot of puts. Moving over to the charts, starting off with the S&Ps here on the hour and the 4 hour. You can see this really strong move on the day. After hours, we took out that 200 on the hourly chart, hit my next level at 445.49. We also hit that upper trend from this channel that we've been building. On the hourly, you can see we hit that longer term resistance line as well on that trend line. Definitely interesting. On the 4 hour, the trend line's quite a bit higher, which is also interesting. But right now, of course, momentum, RSI, everything looks super bullish. Definitely a little bit extended in the shorter time frames, so you could see a little bit of a pullback similar to what we had here. Big rally, hit resistance, pull back, get another continuation rally. Everything is still intact for that structure to continue. Moving over to the NASDAQ on the 15 and the 4 hour, you can see we fell into the pre-market, hit that 144. Got above all the EMAs and SMAs on the shorter time frame. Early in the session, rallied really aggressively. Right up to that trend line, chopped sideways until the after hours. NVIDIA pushing us up after hours quite a lot. Everything looks bullish. And you can see that here on the 4 hour. Momentum and RSI, same as the SPY. Everything looks strong. Above the 4 hour, 200 SMA. We wicked that 144 EMA at 372.88. Again, interesting level, might find a little bit of resistance at that 372.85 area, hit that level after hours. But of course, if NVIDIA continues to rally, I would expect to blow through that level. Moving over to the Russell and the Dow. Russell continues to wick this trend line, rallied up to the next one. We're above it here a little bit after hours. Momentum bullish. RSI looking to cross the 50 line on the 4 hour. Does look a little bit bullish going into tomorrow's session. Dow chopping between these two levels, just like we chopped between these two levels after the bigger breakdown. Certainly could move a little higher with that bullish momentum, but it does need to get above the 21 EMA sitting at 344.94. I also have horizontal resistance at 345.24. This is the weakest of the group right now. Everything looks a little bit bullish going into tomorrow, whereas the Dow looks a little bit more neutral. Moving over to copper versus gold, we had this structure on here. We looked at it on the weekend session where we had that Thursday, Friday bull candles, and that trend has continued this week. So far, this structure is still intact, looking to push up to that next level at 2022. And it makes sense. We're getting a rally in equities, we're getting a rally in copper, and this ratio should go higher. And as it continues to do so, that should confirm the rally in equities. Moving over to Apple and Tesla, obviously both of these were a little bit bullish. Apple looked very strong on the day as soon as it took out that 178.58 level, exploded higher to these previous highs. Next resistance is 182.37. If that level breaks, then I have 187.81 sitting right on top of the 200 SMA at 186.89. This looks pretty bullish. Again, looking for that break continuation. That would be a nice little move. Overall, everything looks bullish here on Apple. Tesla, big wick down in the pre-market. Hit that 21, one of my favorite setups. Got very close in there, rallied off of that 21 zone. We got above that highly traded zone, so that could be your stop loss for now at 238.23. Again, above that is 255.45. Definitely could rally into that zone. Similarly to that 200 SMA sitting at 258.33. Moving over to the stars of the show with Broadcom and NVIDIA. Broadcom, big sympathy play up to that highly traded zone up around 903. NVIDIA also rallying super aggressively after hours. Hit that trend line, broke, rallied up to 501 right now, but we wicked all the way up to 519, which was a new all-time high on that wick. We have the trend line sitting at 531. I would expect to hit that tomorrow. As long as this rally holds overnight, maybe a slight dip, but I would look for a trend test up in that zone tomorrow. Moving over to staples and discretionary. Staples starting to consolidate, got back above 72.51. You can trade off that level, definitely interesting. Still very much a downtrend, so you do have to be aware of that, but it is showing some stabilization and bullish momentum. Discretionary came down, tested that 21, just like we talked about on Tesla. Got very close to that level, threw a big wick, close to 166.78 as well. Didn't quite get there. Again, looking for the break continuation, certainly possible. 55 EMA sitting at 167.95. Momentum bullish, RSI looking bullish. Everything looks a little bit bullish going into tomorrow's session. Moving over to oil and gas and energy, we talked about this topping formation. We got a big breakdown on both of these here today. Energy gapped below the level, rallied back to it, throwing a big wick, but momentum bearish on both of these. RSIs breaking down. Does seem like this is rolling over in both cases. Moving over to breadth on the 50 and the 200. Got a big engulfing candle on the 50-day average. Looks nice. Momentum continuing to tick higher. Looking for that bigger pullback into this mid-range. Certainly possible. 200 did show bullishness off of that 49.76 level. Did not engulf yet, so it doesn't look as strong. But you can see kind of a double bottom on RSI, which is interesting. Momentum still ticking towards bullish, just not quite as much as the 50-day average. Overall, looking neutral on the 200, bullish on the 50. Should start to lead us back to the upside, at least into the mid-range a little bit. Looking at yields on the 2-year and the 10-year, we got bearish engulfing candles, very nice. Wednesday candle on the 2-year, engulfed that previous one, looks nice. 10-year, we had a bearish doji on Tuesday, but then look at that Wednesday candle, big move down from around 4 3/4 down to 4.2-ish, just below that level, right at this high before we had that dip low and rally. If this takes out that high and we start to consolidate, maybe make a lower high, move lower, back towards that 4 range, that could be interesting and could spell a little bit more bullishness for equities. Looking at that RSI, you can see we got below the SMA. Look for a retest and a continuation lower, slightly bearish momentum. Momentum on the 2-year also stepping down slightly. Moving over to the dollar, you can see that big wick high, big rejection on the 4-hour. Ended up being a pretty weak candle. Looks like a topping tail on the daily chart. Momentum fading, RSI fading on both of these. Bearish momentum on the 4-hour also. Been watching this structure as a rising wedge. If this breaks down, it could look very much like the breadth chart, have a much bigger move down, which should spell some strength in equities. Moving over to J&K and TLT. Massive move higher on J&K. Gapped up, rallied back into the middle of this range at 91.65. Hit all the EMAs on the daily chart. continuing to chop in the zone, not giving a lot of direction, but it does look cleaner coming off of that trend line now, slightly bullish. TLT, massive gap higher with yields going lower, which is a little bit interesting considering what we got on the 20-year auction. It was a little bit higher than I would have expected, but again, showing some signs of life. Looks like we've bottomed out a little bit. Might come back and retest or set up a lower high after testing this 21, get a rejection. Higher low setup, rally, definitely interesting. But this is a substantial move and you do have to pay attention to it. Moving over to the MOVE index, you can see this rally that we had on Tuesday, that big breakout, ended up being a bit of a fake out with a break back down here today. VIX also breaking down from its level. Keep in mind the structure is still intact. Could absolutely hit the 21 and rally a little bit. I don't really think that's going to happen, but this is something to watch. The structure is still intact. Could maybe come down and test that 55 EMA, rally off of that level. Could be interesting. Right now it does look bearish, but if it does hold this structure in this lower range down around 1490 or 1459 at the 55 EMA, certainly possible, and we could see another leg higher. Just something to watch as everything continues to look a little bit bullish, and it could give you some evidence of a turning point. Moving over to my accounts, I did fairly well on the session. I ended up rolling out this 185 call. It was 184 expiration for today. I rolled it out 2 days to 185 for $1.83 credit. So that gives me a max profit of $186.83, so about another $1 of opportunity there. I also rolled out my put to 183 for 66 cents. Again, a little bit of opportunity left there as well, looking for about $200 profit over the next 2 days on those positions. Qs, I ended up picking up another covered call, 200 shares worth, 2 covered calls at 369. Obviously, with the big rally, these are going to be profitable. For some reason, they were at minus $220 already. With a $1.89 credit, my max profit on these shares is $170.80. We are obviously way above that now with the NVIDIA earnings, $372.52. So I'll max out the profit on that. Might roll it out another day tomorrow. We'll see how that plays out. Might roll these 365s out as well. This is about my max leverage here at 400 shares of NASDAQ. That is a pretty large position. But as you can see, I'm pretty deep in the money with these first set of covered calls, so we'll see how that one plays out. Overall, everything super bullish going into tomorrow's session. Let me know down in the comment section what you thought of NVIDIA earnings. Can this be the new rocket ship to the moon forever? Will it continue to prop up the markets? Definitely like and subscribe if you got any value out of this video, and make sure you hit the bell so you don't miss out on any future episodes. Of course, none of this is financial advice. This is all for entertainment purposes. Good luck in your trading and have a great day.